Good evening, dear students. I am Ravani Siddhappa MB, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Nyamuti, Davangere District. BA Optional English, 6th semester, Paper 9, 20th Century Literatures 1, Session 3. During the last session, we have discussed a very brief introduction to the poet T.S. Eliot. We have discussed what is modernism and what are the features of modernism related to the Hollow Men, and the title and epigraph 1. These concepts are being discussed during the last session. Now let us continue the same poem. In this session you are going to understand second epigraph of the poem, themes of this poem, symbols, motifs, and the section first of the poem, The Hollow Men. Objectives of this session are learning objectives to enable the students to understand the second epigraph and to make them to know themes and symbols of the poem apart from the first part of this poem or section of this poem. Session outcomes: students will be able to understand the allusions, students will enjoy the poem. Recapitulation: we have discussed the thing that T.S. Eliot was born in America and he came to England later at the age of 25. He became the citizen of England later on, and at the age of, and in the year 1927 he had adopted the Christianity, Catholicism in England, and later on he married Vivian Haywood, and he was the poet, dramatist, and also a prose writer. Among them, The Waste Land is one of the magnum opus of him, and that I already told you. So apart from that, being a dramatist, The Murder in the Cathedral is the most memorable drama of him. And coming to essays and prose writing, Tradition and Individual Talent is one of the most important work, because it delineates what is tradition and what are its features, okay, and what is talent. He discussed all those things in that essay. And coming to the title of the poem, we know that the title is taken from two different works, namely William Morris's poem The Hollow Land and Rudyard Kipling's poem The Broken Men. Okay, so the half of the title of these two works is supposed to be taken and written this poem The Hollow Men. And apart from that, one more critic opines that it is a direct reference to hollow men that appears in William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. Okay, so we have learnt all these things during the last session. And apart from that, we also knew that the epigraph 1. So the epigraph 1 is like that: Mr. Coates, he dead. So this is a direct reference to Joseph Carnot's famous novel The Heart of Darkness. Okay, so Coates was the European ivory trader. He came to African continent to collect ivory, and he started living among them instead of returning, and he became a demigod for them. He was very cruel, it turned to be, Of course, earlier he was a very well civilized, but now he turned into a demigod and he became very, very savage, and ultimately he dies by saying the words horror, horror. And we know that Charles Marlowe came to that land and he wanted to know something about codes, but his assistant boy told him that in a scathing tone, codes, he did. So, by knowing the deeds what he had done there in that land, he come to know that he was hollow at the core. See, this is what we have understood during the last session. Now let us go further. Epigraph 2. Apart from that epigraph, he also used one more epigraph in this poem. See, that is a penny for the old guy. And that one is the literary, what we call allusion or epigraph. This one is the historical allusion. See, it is related to gunpowder plot of 1965. It was a failed attempt. See, here what happened is that um, there was the person named Guy Fawkes. There was a person, his name was called as Guy Fawkes. See, was Catholic who wanted to blow up the monarchy and also the parliament by making use of gunpowder. However, it was identified, he was arrested, imprisoned, and later he was burnt out. To mark this occasion, children of England on November 5th go door to door to collect a penny for the old guy for purchasing firecrackers and other materials to burn out the effigy of Guy Fawkes. Remember, he was a very violent man, and that is to be noted. So, in the last epigraph, also he was very violent, and this person was also very violent. At the core, they were inhuman, they were brutal, they were savage. Okay, see, this is the second epigraph of this poem. See, in this poem, he is related to his effigy in the poem because the hollow men are said to be the effigies. They are the effigies. And he was a notorious person because he tried to kill the king and to blast the parliament. And both of these two persons, Coods and also Guy Fawkes, lived immoral lives of anarchy and violence. But both of them have failed and died. Okay, this is to be noted. Apart from this, this second epigraph also refers Guy, the term Guy or Fox, it is related to Dante's Divine Comedy. See, here there are some souls which are being rejected both by heaven and hell. They stood on the bank of the river Styx. It was overflowing. Okay, and there are these souls are waiting for Charon to carry over them. But if Charon to if Charon to carry their souls away or across that river, one must pay a penny. One must pay a penny. So this is the reference to a penny in this second epigraph. Okay, so hollow men, who are said to be the nothing men, worse than those who are permanently condemned to hell. Okay, so this is the thing here. There is a reference to Dante's Divine Comedy throughout this poem as a whole. I will explain it to you later on. Now let me discuss some of the key facts of this poem. Uh, the poem Haloman is written in free verse form. Remember, free verse doesn't use any strict meter or rhyme scheme. One line may have a single word, second line may run for three words or 5 words or 10 words, and suddenly the third line may have 2 words or 3 words, and the fifth line may have only one word, like that. So if you carefully read this poem, you will understand that the Hollow Man is actually a free verse. And coming to the genre of this poem, it is a dramatic monologue. See here, one fictional character speaks to silent audience. In this poem, one of the Alaman or a few of the Alaman are speaking something to the other Alaman. In this way, it is a dramatic monologue. It is also a lyric, and it is an elegy. See, elegy in the sense of it is lamenting on their current condition. Their condition is worse than the dead people. In this sense, it is an elegy, and apart from that, it is also considered as the soliloquy. See, soliloquy is a technique in which one person speaks aloud on the stage when nobody is there. See, in this way, there are some features of soliloquy in this poem as a whole that we come to know. And who is the speaker? One of the hollow men is the speaker of this poem. One of the hollow men. There are so many people who belong to this category. Among them, one is speaking or narrating about their condition, about their wishes, and description of the lands, description of themselves, and all those things you are going to see later on. There are two important themes apart from many. They are emptiness and cultural decay. So this is a very important theme of this poem. Right, this poem was composed in 1925, published in 1925. You need to understand the historical background of European country where the First World War took place. It has damaged not only the physical world, but also the very psyche of the public, soldiers, and all. See, those who have suffered are damaged in the First World War. Uh, they think that there is nothing in their life. There is emptiness, barrenness, and they have lost connection with that of God. So that is to be noticed. And when they are devoid of spirituality, and it is nothing but they are a kind of hollow men. And cultural decay. See, the European culture has almost met with decay after the First World War. That is the thing. And the second theme is that faith and faithlessness. See, you must remember one thing. T.S. Eliot had adapted to the um, British Catholicism, and hence he has a abundant faith in religion. But because of the First World War, because of the advancement in science and technology, and all those things, it is because of those things it is very difficult for many people to go for faithfulness related to spirituality and all those things. That is being seen in this poem as a whole. There are number of symbols used in this poem. They are straw. It is a dried grass. Okay, it is thrown to the animals to eat it up, and it is used as the food for the animals, and this is being filled in the uh, heads of the scarecrows. Especially this is being compared to the heads of the hollow men, and it is cheap, worthless substance, straw. See, this that is being used in this poem. Wind is there. See, it is meaningless, empty, and unintelligible. So whatever they speak, that is empty, it is meaningless, it is unintelligible. So in that sense, this is being used in this poem. Ice. Ice is a direct reference to uh, pure, holy, good, God, okay, heaven, all these things. It is referring to these things. Ice is the symbol of purity, holiness, goodness, and God. And star is also a symbol in this poem. It is fading away throughout this poem, but it is said that they have no hope, and it is a symbol of hope, and especially the Christian faith. Another important symbol of this poem is shadow. Shadow is referring to the death. Okay, so this is the meaning of this symbol. A rose is also there. It is referring to Jesus, um, Jesus Christ, paradise, and Virgin Mary. So these are all the important symbols you come across while reading this poem. And there are some motifs. Motifs are the images. Motifs are the images that you come across throughout the poem, like a design on the carpet. Okay, and there are such words. They are dryness, desert, ice. Okay, so these are all the important motifs you come across in this poem. This is the picture of the hollow man. Look at the second picture where you come across they are the effigy of Guy Fawkes that I told you while discussing the second epigraph. It behaves as the wind behaves. This is the line from this poem, and they have no intelligence, and they have missing some essential things. Okay, so their heads are filled with straw. Okay, and the poles or the sticks are being used. When the wind moves, they move, and they are moving together instead of helping each other. They are moving with the wind's movement. So that is to be noticed. These hollow men are like that, and such people are actually very very bad according to T.S. Eliot. And in the first picture, you are going to see it is the deserted land. Desert, nothing is there. It shows the futility, emptiness, spiritual barrenness, and all those things. Now let me go for next slide. Now, dear students, let me directly go for section first of this poem. The poem begins like this. We are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men, leaning together, headpiece filled with straw, alas. These are the beginning lines of the poem. Here, one of the hollow men is making it clear, they are hollow, low men, and they are the stuffed men. Stuffed means they are the scarecrows, effigies, that is being said in the second epigraph of this poem, a penny for the old guy. Then I told you that the British children on November 5th celebrate by burning out the effigy of Guy Fawkes, who was the notorious person who tried to blast the parliament along with the king, and it was a failed attempt that I told you. See, these people are like them. Okay, so hollow men means that I told you they are very very inactive, they are lifeless, idle, and unfeeling men of the modern world. They are the hollow men. They are singing, they are saying themselves, they are speaking up, and they are the stuffed men. Look at this thing. Stuffed men means effigy like people. Effigy like, see, effigies are lifeless, they are empty, there is no blood and vein. Okay, so that is the thing. And these hollow men having all such things, they are missing those things. That is the thing here. Yes, they are leaning together instead of helping each other. They are leaning together. Look at this, they're bending together like the scarecrows do in the fields. When the wind moves, they move without any direction. Okay, so that is the thing here. They exist between, these people exist between life and death and suffer from moral paralysis. This is the very dangerous thing. These people, according to T.S. Eliot, are very, very dangerous just because of this nature. And dried, including voice and body. Look at this thing. See, these people are afraid to speak something. Point number one. And then their voices are dried. Whatever they speak meaningless. It is not clearly audible. And at the same time, they do whisper instead of speaking up. And whatever they speak, it is meaningless. And whatever they speak, it is compared to two important things. It is the simile, as wind in dry grass, or rat's feet over the broken glass. Look at this thing. Whatever they speak, it is not clear. Like when the wind blows on the dried grass, there is a kind of rustling sound. It is not clear. These people's speeches are like that. Directly it is compared to that one. Or when the rat is walking on the piece of glass, there is a noise. It is not clear. Whatever these people speak, their voice or the speech is like that. These two similes are given for explaining about their speech. Okay, next, there is the description of the hollow men. Who are they? How are they? And all those things. They say and do nothing. This is the main feature of the hollow men. They say nothing and they do nothing. What if at all if they speak or say something, it is meaningless. And ultimately, they describe themselves in these two lines. It is a fantastic line. Shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, and gesture without motion. See, in these two lines, they have described themselves. They have a shape, but without form. Just look at this picture. What do you think of it? It is a shape of men and women. It looks like, but it is in the ringlets, and it is a shape, but there is no form in it. There is no proper substance in it. Okay, to consider man or woman like that. See, these people are like it, and they have the shade, but it is missing the color. They have a force, but it is paralyzed. Look at this thing, paralyzed force. They do not have any force or any energy. They do not have any energy. That energy is being struck. And they have gestures without motion. See, once again, meaningless. See, this is the physical description of the um, so-called the hollow man. In these four comparisons, shape, shade, force, and gesture, something is missing. Okay, see, there is no blood in them, and to supply that blood, there is no veins in them, and they have no power to act. This is the overall analysis of these two lines. In heaven, souls look with direct eyes at God, but hollow men do not have direct eyes. This is another important thing that we need to discuss. See, when the dead people go to the what we call another world, then if they have led a pure life, God will receive them to the heaven. And only such people can see the God directly. But these people who have led a hollow life, empty life, meaningless life, inactive life, they are not able to see the God with their direct eyes. This is the thing here. Okay, once again, this first section of the poem ends with the uh, same lines as the hollow men, the stuffed men. Look at this thing. Once, when they went to that particular land, death's other kingdom, okay, then they must not be remembered as the violent souls. This is the thing here. They must not be remembered as the violent souls because they did not lead such life. They did not behave like that. But they wanted to be remembered as the allomen. These people, these allomen, expects in the death's other kingdom to be remembered not as the violent souls like Codes or the Guy Fawkes Both of them have led a violent what we call actions and violent souls they have. But these allomen expect themselves that they must not be remembered as violent souls but as the hollow men and the stuffed men. So this is the thing you need to understand about their nature and about what they do and what they speak and whether their speech is having any sense and all those things, and the physical description of these people that we have studied in the first section of the poem. Thank you.